Hello, Montgomery. It's 20 minutes after 10. I'm Ace Anderson, behind the mic with the sound you like. Here we go with John Lee Hooker.
Boom, 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 boom. I'm gonna shoot you right down, right off of your feet.
I'm 5 years old, and I'm riding on the bus, and I can't sit down, and I'm asking my brother why. And then, a white guy would get on and sit in the seat. And I said, they sitting there?
That was the law back then.
Oh, yeah. Talk that talk. Walk that walk.
Her name is Rosa Parks, and she got on the bus and she wouldn't give up her seat.
They called Rosa Parks the mother of the civil rights movement because she was the one that got it going.
You'd never, ever expected this lady would start a revolution like she did. But as I said, there comes a time.
Rosa Parks is my auntie. To me, she's just Aunt Rosie. A lot of people have heard of my auntie, but they really don't know what she actually did.
As far as I can remember, I resisted the idea of being mistreated and pushed around because of my race. And I felt that all people should be free regardless of their color.
Rosa Parks is my favorite hero. She was brave enough to not get up. She refused to get up.
In one amazing moment, she changed the course of American history.
Now, if you was white, you'd be all right. If you was brown, stick around. But as you black, brother.
Growing up in the South was very, very different from now. You couldn't go to the park or the zoo. Couldn't try on clothes in a store.
They had different water fountains in different schools.
All of those stores that you see full of ice cream and sundaes and everything, but you couldn't go in and have any.
Now, if you was white, she's all right. If you was brown, stick around. But if you was black.
Rosa Parks was raised a little different. She was raised that she was just as good as anyone else.
My auntie Rosa Parks told me, and I'm as good as anybody else, and nobody can take that away from me.
My auntie Rosa was a seamstress. Her friends were maids, cooks, regular working people. I think that they were tired of being looked down upon.
We had to clean house, wash, iron, and attend to children. I could nurse their babies, but I could not drink out the same cup. When I started cleaning closets out, I found those white sheets. I had to put them back in the trunk.
When I was in high school, there's these niggers that thought they was all better than us whites. Sometimes we'd get them with baseball bats. We'd take them and let them know that we was mighty whitey.
My grandpa used to tell me stories about the Ku Klux Klan. They would go around and kill black people just because of the color of their skin.
People were taught to stand there and take it, because if you fought back, then that means you were next.
But it wasn't just the Klan. It was the police, the courts, and sometimes even the bus drivers who could make your life miserable.
First 10 seats were reserved for white folks, even if there were no white folks on the bus.
The system was different from town to town, but the intent was always the same: the blacks in the back.
We didn't have any car, we didn't have any transportation. We had to ride the bus. And we was on the bus just like this. He'd holler, "Get back! Get back, niggas! Get back!"
One day in 1943, Mrs. Rosa Parks got on the bus to go home and had an incident she would never forget.
She got on the bus and paid her money. and she could see that the back door was very crowded. So she headed down the aisle to the colored section.
Lady, you need to get on off now and go around.
Can you imagine putting your money in the box and having to get off the bus and go around to the back door to get on the bus?
Woman, did you hear what I said? You need to get on off now and go around. Come on now.
She didn't see where she would have to get off since she was already in the back.
He was about to hit her. I mean, just really hit her in the face. And she told him, "You better not hit me."
She was shy and she was quiet and timid, but inside it's like something more.
Off my bus, I've had just about enough of this. Oh.
She stood there and she swore she would never get on the bus again if he was the driver.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up the freedom's lane.
It would be 12 more years before Rosa Parks started a revolution to civil rights.
Her husband had always been involved in the early stages of civil rights, but he didn't want her to get involved because he said she wouldn't be able to run fast enough to get away from the police. She got involved anyway, working with Mr. E.D. Nixon.
E.D. Nixon was my father. He was 6'4", had a very deep voice, and he hated segregation.
E.D. Nixon was a man that wanted equality.
My dad put Mrs. Parks in charge of a youth group, a group of teenagers she was teaching about civil rights.
She would invite us to her home, especially during the civil rights movement. We thought it was safe to go there.
And we would sit on her floor, and she talked about freedom.
I was 12 or 13 years old, and I recall traveling around the state with Miss Parks, meeting other young people.
Rosa Parks always had a group of kids with her, training them to be somebody.
At that time, there were so many battles to be fought. Mrs. Parks had a friend whose son was unfairly accused of raping a white woman. He was 17 years old.
Rosie was very saddened by it, and she did everything she could to try to help him get out, but it was useless because this was a black boy being picked up for rape. And they waited till he became an adult 4 years later before they gave him the electric chair.
The situation was so hopeless. A lot of black people simply left, including Rosa Parks' only brother.
He left Alabama, never came back.
It broke my auntie's heart.
Not all whites treated blacks so badly. Some could see the injustices very clearly and set out to do what they could to help.
Rosa Parks worked for Virginia Durr, and they became good friends.
Mrs. Parks would come in Saturday, and she and my mother would sit in the back bedroom and sew and talk.
Mrs. Durr decided to sponsor her at a retreat called Highlander in the foothills of Tennessee, where the people were very excited about a new idea, nonviolence. And for the first time in her life, she lived with white people, ate with them, sang songs with them.
The main thing she learned that she was among white people and was treated equally.
Rosa Parks came home from Highlander knowing that she was not alone. that she could take a stand and maybe even make a difference. And it started on a bus.
On December 1st, 1955, after working all day, very tired, I got the bus to go home.
Cleveland Avenue bus was very crowded, and just back of where the last white seat was, there was one vacancy. And I don't know why somebody else had not taken that seat. I took that last vacant seat.
Mrs. Parks made one mistake that day. She didn't notice who was driving.
The third stop, there were some whites getting on, and there was one white man standing.
There's a hill. Y'all need to get up now and give me them seats. Go on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go.
After I had taken a seat on the bus, the driver demanded that I give this seat up for a white man.
And I remembered him instantly because I had not forgotten his face.
Let's go. Come on now. Y'all best make light on yourselves and give me them seats. Let's go. Move it. Here you go.
What that man was demanding was that 4 black people got up so that just one white man could sit down.
I just moved next to the window, so he asked me if I was going to stand up. I said, no, I'm not.
Woman, are you going to give me that seat?
I didn't feel that I was being treated as a human being. I refused to give up this seat. I said no, and I wouldn't give it up.
Take notice, Mrs. Parks was not sitting in the white section of the bus. She was sitting in the black section. But if they needed that seat for whites, you were out of there.
And he said, well, if you don't stand up, I'm going to call the policeman and have you arrested.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. My God, that's what I'll do. I'll have your ass arrested.
I felt that I had had enough, and this was truly the end of being pushed around.
It was late in the afternoon, the best I remember. A patrol car got a disturbance call. I was a motorcycle patrolman at that time, and I was close by. The bus driver had told me that there was a black lady who refused to give up her seat. After arriving on the scene, I waited till patrol got there.
We boarded the bus and found the lady.
The driver did point me out, and he said, that one.
He said, lady, you're under arrest, and she said you may do that.
When they took her to the police station, Mrs. Rosa Parks said, may I have a drink of water? And they said, no, whites only.
When she finally got to use the phone, the first person she called was her husband. The first thing that came out of his mouth was, did they beat you?
Word was flying around town.
I say, Bertha, open the door.
The lady that was on the bus lived right there.
I said, your friend, they done put her in jail. The police has got her.
And that lady went over to Mr. E.D. Nixon's house, and Mr. E.D. Nixon called the police.
My dad called down to find out what Mrs. Parks was arrested for. And they told him to mind his own damn business and we don't talk to niggers, and hung up.
Mr. Nixon came by and got my husband and me, and we went down to the jail, and Mr. Nixon made bail for her.
And then he went back to her house and told her, this is the case I've been waiting for. I want to use your case to fight the buses.
I said, you know, we took this stuff long enough. I said, I'm going to call the people together and organize a bus boycott.
They needed a test case, someone who hadn't been in trouble, who was quiet.
When Mr. Raymond Parks came into work that morning, I overheard him saying that his wife had been arrested, and he thought that the two of them would be killed. He was very frightened. And I think at that point, all of us started to realize that something was about to happen.
Definitely there was a spirit of revolution. The feeling was, enough is enough.
That night, Joanne Robinson snuck back into her office in secret.
I didn't go to bed that night. I cut those stencils. I ran off 35,000 copies.
The word got out like wildfire.
I said, Miss Parks has been arrested. Stay off the buses. I remember running up and down the street, telling everybody that we saw.
I used to wear a black short coat because I knew at night that I couldn't be seen very well. And then all the time, the police would harass us, and I would always get away.
Come to the meeting Monday night, and we'll give you further instructions.
Those kids were out all night, like Paul Revere starting the revolution.
It was into the morning. It was kind of a windy December day, and the wind kind of carried the leaflets.
This church had a white pastor, but the unique thing about it was an all-black congregation.
I'm Reverend Robert Gratz. I'm the pastor of the Trinity Lutheran Church here in Montgomery.
On Sunday, the 4th of December, 1955, I told the members of the congregation that they should stay off of the buses that next day. At the beginning, we thought it was just going to be a one-day boycott.
All the ministers got up in their pulpits and started telling people, now is the time. Tomorrow is the day.
I couldn't sleep. I don't know if I got a wink of sleep that night.
I was informed at 5 o'clock in the morning not to ride the bus. I said, why? He said, just don't ride the bus.
Stay off the bus. Stay off the bus. Do not ride the bus.
The bus driver asked, well, aren't you going to get on? And they said no.
That Monday morning, I stood at the corner from 7 until 9 to see if any black people was going to be on the bus, and it was not.
Boom, 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 boom. I would literally applaud.
They would say, no riders today.
No riders today.
No riders today. No riders today.
I remember walking and the excitement and the novelty. We're gonna walk to school today.
Here's a scoop from the Ace. There's going to be a little showdown at the courthouse today.
On the first day of the bus boycott, my grandfather was driving people to work.
I hit the streets and drove people to work all over town. And then as soon as Mrs. Parks' trial came up, I rushed to the courthouse, and there was a huge crowd of black people there.
A trial lasted 5 minutes. They found her guilty of disturbing the peace, started a battle which would go all the way to the Supreme Court.
I remember me and Francis saying, they messed with the wrong one now.
We knew there was something big happening, but we didn't know what.
My Uncle Al has always been kind of nosy.
I decided to go underneath the house so I can listen to what they were saying. And I overheard Mrs. Parks say, they're going to have a mass meeting.
He was eavesdropping.
Hello, Montgomery, and a big reminder, there will be a meeting tonight at the Holt Street Baptist Church.
People started gathering early in the day. People just came out of nowhere. They filled up the church, they filled up the grounds around the church. They had to block off the neighborhood.
That first mass meeting was one of the most incredible experiences I ever had in my life.
They were hoping for 500 people. Instead, there were 5,000.
When Mrs. Parks was introduced, it was almost pandemonium.
And E.D. Nixon announced that we have just chosen Dr. King as our leader. And then from the back came Dr. King.
Martin Luther King was really the new kid in town. He was a young preacher with a brand new baby and a pretty wife.
And when he opened his mouth to begin to speak, it was unbelievable.
On the 5th of December, 1955, fine, dignified, disciplined, courageous seamstress from this community was sitting down on a bus. Sister Rosa Parks, with dignity and discipline, said in substance that the cup of endurance has run over. I can take it no longer. Martin Luther, back in the 16th century, who said, "Here I stand and I can do none other, so help me God." It was Rosa Parks who on the 1st of December said, "Here I sit and I can do none other, so help me God."
I had never even heard of Dr. King until that night. And I never got emotional in the church before in my life until that night. And I screamed out to the top of my voice, "Lord, you have sent us a leader."
Are you ready for the question?
Now, the main question at the meeting was whether we should continue with the boycott.
All in favor, let it be known by standing on your feet.
But I know she was happy. I said, well, hey, maybe this is gonna work. I got some backup.
Looking good, Montgomery. Here's a song from the heart, Walk On.
Unsung heroes of the movement was the maids and cooks and porters.
The maids would get up in the morning, go to their jobs, and then they have to walk all the way back home. So you're talking about 10 miles a day.
And people from all over the country were bringing in shoes and mailing shoes.
Don't stop now.
The cabs would literally pick up people that wouldn't charge them anything.
My Uncle Buddy, he loaned out the black funeral cars.
I remember my uncle picking people up in the hearse. If they were willing to get in, he'd pick them up.
Hello, Montgomery. Now listen up, Alabama. It's going to be a hot, hot, hot one, and you know what I mean. So keep your cool, brothers and sisters.
Montgomery had only one black radio station, but the star, by far, was Ace Anderson. He was courageous. He spoke in codes.
Here's another tip coming from the Big Ace. To all of my teens, all right, Daddy-O, I want y'all to keep a keen eye on those young ladies and make sure that they get home safely from school. And you know the reason why.
My uncle, he used to walk the girls home. Beautiful girls, of course. And it was like a two-way thing that he was doing. First, he was protecting them, and then he was having himself a good time.
Remember, nobody's riding, so the girls walking too.
One weekend, Mrs. Parks ran up to Atlanta in a farmer's truck for used bicycles to get our men to work.
She was a very busy lady, very busy lady.
Ooh, baby, mama, won't you jump with me? 50 cents for me.
The white people really thought the boycott would be over the first rainy day.
I was carrying people to work, and I passed this group of people that were walking, and it was raining. I said, I can pick up a couple more of you if you want to ride. And they said, oh, no, we don't want to ride. We're just happy to walk in the rain. And they were walking and singing in the rain as happy as anything.
Oh, you are my sunshine. Oh, my only sunshine.
Since no blacks were riding the bus system went almost completely out of business.
It was a shock for a lot of whites.
If we whites win the battle here, it will encourage white people everywhere to take back the territory that we've been losing during the past 10 years.
I think the white community was stunned. It was the first time where the blacks finally stood up and said no more. And I think it scared the heck out of the white community.
There was a rally of whites that filled the Coliseum. One guy got up and said, "We're going to teach Rosa Parks a lesson."
1 month into the boycott, Rosa Parks was fired from her job.
They said that things was getting slow, but it was during the busiest time of the year, December, the week after Christmas.
Senator Engelhardt, just what is the Citizens Council trying to do?
We are trying to make every white man in Alabama stand up and be counted.
You're looking at a way of life that has gone on for hundreds of years, and it's beginning to end.
Funny enough, one of the biggest helps to the boycott was the white women who would sneak out and drive their maids. And their husbands didn't like it at all.
The whites was like this. They could be for you, but they didn't want to let the other whites know that they were for you.
Here's another important announcement. The pickup spot for drivers today is E.L. Posey's parking lot. You know where it is, so if you need a ride today, it's Posey's parking lot.
By that time, we were organized.
Where you going? Where you headed?
The churches took up collections to buy shiny new station wagons. They called them rolling churches, and we were riding in style. I'm gonna let it shine, oh, this the light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine, oh, this the light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
And the big reminder, there'll be a mass meeting tonight at the Bell Street Baptist Church, and the King will be speaking, so don't miss the meeting.
If your problem won't go away, and you're worried night and day, hand it over.
During the boycott, it was the women who came up with all these ideas to keep it going.
Listen to the ace. Aren't you hungry? Well, why not buy a pie from the ladies of the boycott?
My mother sold food. She made all kind of pies, all kind of meats and vegetables, and she had some of the best food on this side of heaven. On Monday night, she was turning more money than anybody was at that meeting. She gave it all to the movement.
The teachers wouldn't give the kids homework on Monday because they knew they was going to the meeting.
We used to have a dance every Wednesday.
To all my brothers and sisters, there'll be a dance tonight at the Elks Club to raise money for the carpool. And I'll be looking for your face in the place because I'll be there.
My Auntie Rosie would be their chaperone. Auntie Rosie was a cool lady. Very cool. She understood life.
By that time, our boycott was making the news.
What do colored people now hope to gain by pressing the segregation fight at this time?
Well, we hope to achieve equal rights as any human being deserves.
How long do you think it would take?
I have no idea how long.
By about midwinter, the whites finally realized this little protest was not going away.
For several weeks now, we have been involved in a non-violent protest. Even if we have to receive violence, we will not return violence.
We could easily identify the trucks that came in from the countryside carrying the KKK members because their trucks would be splashed with red clay mud.
Sometimes the young guys would urinate in balloons and throw the balloons at the cars.
Elderly gentleman working for my father was beaten to death on the street by the police. When I got to work that morning, they were still washing the blood off the street.
The atmosphere was charged with so much hatred at that time. I mean, it was a mean, ugly time.
We still have the attitude of love, and we are still insisting that violence is self-defeating, that he who lives by the sword will perish by the sword.
During the boycott, my aunt had already gotten a lot of death threats, people threatening to kill her.
The threats just kept coming, and coming. All times of day and night, they would get threats.
Down the street from my grandparents was the white neighborhood.
The telephone would ring, and a voice would say, "Do you know where those fair-haired children of yours are right now?"
Then one night, in the housing project, the Ku Klux Klan came marching through the middle.
The Ku Klux Klan came right down the middle with their fire and robes, right past Mrs. Parks' home.
Little kids were in the windows looking out. People were just terrified.
They bombed E.D. Nixon's home just behind me.
People's Cab Company bombed. In fact, my uncle was in the station at that time.
There was one night that all bombs were going off at all churches at one time.
My grandparents' house was bombed twice.
Let me tell you something about Mrs. Parks. When our house was bombed in August of 1956, we lost a lot of dishes. Windows were broken and pots and pans and everything flew off the shelves, and Mrs. Parks simply disappeared. And when we went looking for her, we finally found her in the kitchen, sweeping up the broken dishes. What we did not know was that one of our neighbors was going door to door asking people for donations, and with that, she bought us a new set of dishes. And Mrs. Parks said when they bombed the Gretzes, they bombed us.
We were afraid they were going to bomb Dr. King's home. We were always afraid for him.
It was not a question of whether or not it would happen. It was always a question of when.
We was at a mass meeting at First Baptist Church. It wasn't too long after the protest had started.
I should first make you intelligent of what is happening legally.
Dr. King was speaking, but a young man named Whaley walked over and whispered something to him.
Martin Luther King lived 2 doors down, and my sister and I were watching TV in the front room. There were 12 sticks of dynamite. Glass was shattering all around us, and the impact was so great it knocked my sister out of the bed.
I dropped everything and immediately went to see the damage that was done.
After the bombing, many of blacks came and surrounded his house with weapons and clubs.
When we ran out to the front, we saw the people gathering, and it was a massive crowd.
And all of the people in the neighborhood, they have their pistols and their bats with them. And they're saying, "Let's go and get them, let's go and get them."
They were ready to fight.
Dr. Martin Luther King drove up in his taxi and stood at the front doorstep. Dr. King told his fellow blacks, "Please, do not fight. Please."
He said, "My wife and child is all right." Dr. King held up his hand and said, "Peace." And he said these words:
Violence must not come from any of us.
There were hundreds and hundreds of black people on the other side of the street.
We will have walked in vain.
But none of them made a move. None of them said a word. It was stone silent.
Our aim must never be to defeat or humiliate the white man, but to win his friendship and understanding. We must come to see that the end we seek is a society that can live with its conscience, a society at peace with itself.
And then somebody began to sing.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I
That night was a big turning point for the black community, because the whites had done all they could to try to hurt us. They tried to kill Dr. Martin Luther King, and still we remain nonviolent.
The next morning, my aunt was there with the broom ready to help and clean up.
Our people were strong. They bombed our houses, they beat us, but all through this, we stuck together and were strong together, and we won.
At the end of the boycott, our 11th grade teacher stood up and announced, "The Supreme Court has just struck down segregation," and we all stood up and applauded.
So after 381 days of walking in the rain and the wind and through the storms, the boycott was over, and the 50,000 black people of Montgomery had won the victory.
The boycott changed the heart and soul of black folk. That was the first beginning of you feeling like you could be somebody. And it felt good.
People were so happy they were dancing in the streets.
We couldn't wait to get on the buses to ride in the front.
The day my auntie got on the bus and sat on the front seat, she looked up and couldn't believe it was the same bus driver. His name was James Blake, from a town called Equality, Alabama.
Oh, there was some mighty times. Mighty, mighty times.
She started a revolution to freedom, which spread all around the world and continues to this day.
My auntie Rosa Parks told me I'm as good as anybody else, and nobody can take that away from me.
Aunt Rosie and her friends changed the whole world by sticking together.
Thank you, Mrs. Parks.
If you was white, you're alright. If you was brown, stick around. But if you was black, brother, get back, get back, get back. I hope built the country, and I fought for it too. Now get that you can see what a black man have to do. This is if you was white, you're alright. If you was brown, stick around. But if you was black, brother, get back, 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 get back. country, and I fought for it too. Now get that you can see what a black man have to do. This is if you was white, you're alright. If you was brown, stick around. But as you black, brother, get back, get back, get back. I hope win sweet victory with my little plow and hoe. Now I want you to tell me, brother, what you gonna do about the old Jim Crow. Now if you was white, you're alright. If you was brown, stick around. But as you black, brother, get back, 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 get back. What you gonna do about the old Jim Crow? Now if you was white, you're alright. If you was brown, stick around. But as you black, brother, get back, 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 brother, get back, get back, get back. country, and I fought for it too. Now I guess that you can see what a black man have to do. This is if you was white, you'd be alright. If you was brown, stick around. But as you black, brother, get back, get back, get back. I hope win sweet victory with my little plow and hoe. Now I want you to tell me, brother, what you gonna do about the old Jim Crow. Now if you was white,